Hi, it's Richard Moore from Racing Profits Guides, and we're up here at Manor House Stables with trainer Tom Dascombe. We're going to talk a bit about Tom's career to date, the development of Manor House, and also a couple of courses that Tom sends his horses to. First of all, Tom, thanks for your time today.
No problem at all.
Just lead us through the early years and what got you into horse racing initially?
My grandfather, my father. My earliest memories are going horse racing to Bath and Chepstow and Newton Abbot and courses like that.
Yeah. So you were born Bristol way, was that
That's right, yeah.
Down that way, so it was all your local courses you used to go around. And then through school, did you ride at all when you were
started riding at about 4. And got competitive in the pony club and all that sort of stuff. All the way through my sort of schoolhood, wanted to just be a jockey from the age of 4.
Did you? And then you had a bit of a summer season. Was it Henry Candy you went to for?
Yeah, I spent the summer holidays at Henry Candy when I was 15, and as soon as I left school, went to Martin Pipes.
Right, and then you actually rode for Martin, did you?
Had a few years as a conditional jockey for Martin. It was a wonderful experience.
You learnt a lot from Martin, obviously. He was.
Well, I think
ahead
Martin.
of his time, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was pretty inspirational.
The way he trained his horses.
Yeah, he was ahead of the game, wasn't he? And got them fitter, and it was a good learning curve. But also, with other West Country trainers, and it was an enjoyable 10 years as a relatively unsuccessful jockey.
And you had how many winners, did you say?
I think it was 96 in total.
96.
But it taught me a lot.
All over the jumps.
Yeah.
And then you come obviously into the more of the training career. Your early years, were they with Rafe Beckett? Did you go to Rafe first, or?
Had a spell with Rafe. We were friendly from when I worked at Martin Pipes. We worked together there. Worked for Rafe, did a bit of time in America. And then really I think the biggest inspiration set up training was working for Mike de Kock. We had horses in South Africa, he had horses in South Africa, and I looked after the ones that were in Dubai and England and wherever else.
Right, and you were very instrumental in the training. Did Mike teach you all his techniques, how he trained horses then? Or?
Well, I mean, he used to come over to Dubai probably about 6 weeks before the World Cup himself, but up to then he just used to say work them as hard as you can and feed them as much as they'll eat.
And that was his basic
That was
premise.
basically it, yeah.
Keep them very, very fit.
Yeah.
That is. And then that obviously moved on to you going on your own. Your first was down in Lambourne, was it? The first
Correct,
set
yes.
up?
Set up about 9 years ago now. I think it's our 9th season. Had 4 great years in Lambourne. And
Started very small, did you then?
Yeah, I think we moved in with sort of 6 horses. Ended up with about 90, so it was good progress.
And then you just tell us a little bit about how you met Michael Owen and Andrew Black, and obviously.
Well, I used to train for Andrew in Lambourne. I used to train his horses, some of his horses there. So I knew him, and then this came about, quite quickly. Michael asked me if I'd think about coming up here, and I spoke to Bert, and we formed a partnership, and that was how it all sort of happened in a couple of months.
Lovely. All right, we'll talk in the next part of the video then about Manor House and how it's set up and how it's developed over the past 4 or 5 years. It'll be great. Thanks for that. Right, Tom, let's talk a bit more about Manor House then, and what's developed over the past 4 or 5 years here. You were telling me earlier that this was all built when you moved from Lambourne, but originally it was just a farm here, is that right?
That's right. Originally it was, what's the word I'm looking for, an arable farm. Michael built a lot of new facilities and needed, a trainer in that could fill the stables. We moved here with about 110 horses, I think, when we first moved in.
Because you were saying quite a few of yours from Lambourne.
Yeah, we brought 70 or something up from Lambourne. And then since I've been here in the last 4 years, we built a new gallop, which has meant a new driveway. We've put in lots of paddocks, and we built a veterinary unit and a swimming pool. So, there's been quite a lot of development.
And real state-of-the-art facilities you've constantly added to it.
Everything's new, everything's functional, and everything's close, so it's you know, it's labour saving and hopefully, you know, efficient.
And you said there's around 90 horses here.
That's right.
A year, and you sort of rotate. You buy, obviously, out buying yearlings every year as well at the sales. About 40 a year, did you say?
Yeah, I tend to have a sort of even split of 45, you know, elder horses, 2-year-olds. Tend to go out and buy between 35 and 45 yearlings, depending on what we need, and then find owners that want to keep them here and race them from here.
And what level are you looking for when you're buying your yearlings? And you're always looking at the top class ones, are you?
Well, you hope so, don't you? I mean, what you're looking for is in your budget. That depends what your budget is. But we're trying, you know, buy a spectrum of horses from some less expensive to, you know, more expensive, depending on what the client base is that, you know, requires a horse.
And just run through some of the horses you've got here then in the stables. Obviously Brown Panther, I'd say, is one of your most favourite, or one of your most famous horses. Any others that really stand out? Do you think I'm proud of that over the years?
Oh, I think there's lots of horses you can be proud of. You know, I mean, one of my favourite horses that I've had to train was a horse called Firth the Fifth that I bought for £5,000. You know, and he won a Group 2 for us, and he's still running in Hong Kong now. I think he's won £500,000 in prize money.
Has he? Yeah. And you bought him as a 2-year-old?
As a yearling.
As a yearling.
Yeah, £5,000. There's lots and lots of horses you can be proud of, but I mean, I think you're proud of them for various different reasons, and it's not always because of their ability. Often it's because of their attitude to the game.
And that they give you everything every time they're out on the course. And is Brown Panther one of those then?
He certainly is.
He gives you everything every time he runs.
Yeah.
And what, I mean, I've heard you talk obviously a lot on the phone as I've been here this morning, and you seem to know the breeding inside out. I mean, obviously that's your job, but do you look for specific breeds when you're looking, or?
Again, it depends what you're trying to, you know, come up with, isn't it? Do you want a 1.5 mile, 3-year-old that can go on and do jumping, or do you want an out-and-out sprinter over 5 furlongs for the rest of its life? So you have to decide, you know, what it is your owner wants, what you want to go and buy them, and, you know, do they understand the product that they're being given? Then, if it's got any ability or not, well, you've got to hope it has.
And do you also run, I mean, obviously I've seen this, the syndicate you run here at Manor House. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've got a few partnerships, and we've got a racing club which has luckily been hugely successful this year with one horse in particular called Dascombe, who has run in the first 3, I think his last 12 starts. He's won over 100 grand in prize
Very
money.
Consistent as well for that level, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. You know, it's a lot of running. You know, a lot of days out at the races, and quite a bit of success.
Fabulous. And what was Trinity.com Elite then? Was he another yearling that came through the?
He was one. Yeah, he was one that we bought as a yearling for 25 grand, something like that, and. Well, anyway, we ended up acquiring him back off the owner, and he's blossomed as an elder horse.
Syndicate horse, yeah, fabulous. Well, it's nice to know that as well, that you're not just buying a horse in for a syndicate, it's actually a horse that you've seen all the way through from being a yearling, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So over the last 4 or 5 years, obviously it's built up the success here. 36 winners in 2010, so was that just a bedding in year? Is that always what it's going to be like?
It was a tricky time the first year here. We you know, I hadn't realised how difficult it can be moving, and everything I seemed to do was wrong. But anyway, we got through it, and we're still plodding on. So.
And you moved the family and everybody up here then?
Absolutely, yeah.
You're all up here. You've got the young family, haven't you? Then 2011, obviously the momentum started then. 51 winners. 79 in 2012, 56 last year. But the interesting thing with last year was that even though there were a few less winners, the prize money was around the same, so obviously. Yeah,
last year was a tricky year because the winter, I don't know whether you remember the winter of 2013, I mean, we had snow on the ground from the January to the end of April. Yeah, it was horrific.
A long time.
And we were sort of always 3 months behind. I think we had 150 less runners last year than we did the year before.
Wow.
So that's going to impact on your
your winners.
numbers. But, luckily, we had a couple of nice winners last year, which kept the prize money up.
Fabulous. Yeah, I've seen obviously on the gallops you've got both. You've got a turf gallop and or you were just fencing off the turf gallop. Is that not used obviously through the winter? You just sort of.
That's right. Yeah. Wait. Otherwise, it's too wet and you ruin the grass for the summer.
But the all-weather's like a polytrack surface, so even with the snow, could you keep that moving?
We can keep working them all year round, basically.
Keep them nice and fit, yeah. And the pool, what would you use the pool for then? Obviously that's lower impact, is it exercise? Or
it's fitness, recuperation and fitness. So it depends on whether you're wanting to give a horse extra work, so gallop it and swim it, or whether it's perhaps had an injury and instead of being on box rest you can keep it pretty fit, so that it'll take less time to get back onto the track.
I suppose certain types of horses enjoy that as well, do they? Is it something that
a lot of the elder horses tend to like to keep off their feet on the gallops,
protects them a bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, that's a great insight to the Manor House stables. Thanks for that.
No worries.
Let's talk a little bit about Doncaster, Tom. Again, a big left-handed flat galloping track.
Yeah, it should suit our horses really well. Good drainage, fast ground, nice sprint track. We just have no success there at all.
Is it a bit like York then, do you think? Just the competitive races?
Don't know what it is, just doesn't suit us. We've had a few seconds, notably Brown Panther and St Ledger. I couldn't name the 3 horses that won there in the last 5 years. It's a funny thing. It should be ideal, should suit our horses. For some reason, it doesn't.
And on the St Ledger trip, let's talk about Brown Panther then in the St Ledger a bit to get a feel for the course. Do you give any specific instructions to jockeys when they're riding there, or do you leave it all to the jockey?
Yeah, pretty much. That day, for example, Fallon was riding it. Well, you don't need to give him too many instructions,
Probably not.
It's pretty simple. It's you come down Rose Hill and you've got a long sweeping bend, and then you're presented with quite a long stretch in front of you. It's a proper stayers track.
So do you think it positions everything on that track?
Well, you don't want to be wide.
No.
You don't want to be wide.
No, it push you too far wide, especially on that, like you say, after Rose Hill, the way it comes round, it's turning for a long way, isn't it?
Turning for a long way, and every one you're off the rail, you're giving away ground.
And then they swing into the straight. They've got a long straight again, very like York, very like Nottingham, probably about over 4 furlong straight, isn't there? Again, is it? Do they kick for home straight away, or again, is it depending on the pace of the race?
Yeah, I think you can come from the back at Doncaster, but if you're turning in front and they're still coming around the bend, you can nick a length or 2 out of them if you kick early.
Yeah, and then obviously the straight track. You said you've had runners in the link and things like that. Anything specific you look for there? Any draw bias that you can see?
There is draw bias, isn't there? But I think that all depends on how much racing they've had and how much the rain gets into the ground. It's more of a on a quick ground there's little draw bias. When it's rained, it can be like most courses, there can be some advantage.
Down the middle, do you think, there again?
It tends to be, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well that's great. Thanks for your insight into that. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.